Hey everybody, Tag Life Done Free. Hey, I ran across a guy who homesteads, but he went across an amazing journey of, bankruptcy and debt, and all the way to today of living free. And I thought his story was empowering, and I thought for many of you it would help you as you continue on your journey. So if you're interested in hearing how a guy went from bankruptcy to living free, come on, let's check it out. Hey everybody, Tag Life Done Free. Hey, we've got a unique guest here today that I think's got an important message and an important story of hope. And I love that. I love talking to other homesteaders. I love talking to people who are trying to push freedom and self-sufficiency, to our community, really, all over the country. And so I'd like everyone to help me welcome Jake from Dog Creek Farm to the show. So, Jake, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So before we get into your story, which is really what I wanted to talk to you about, although your event is really more to my heart because it's about building community, right? But so let's talk about your event a little bit. Tell us about where it's at, what's going on. Just kind of give us the sit rep.
Yeah, we have an event. It's 429, April 29th. It's in Henryville, Indiana at the Henryville Community Center. Um, we have a pretty full day. We have, I know somebody on Free Study even mentioned as a kid friendly. We actually have events just for the kids. So like a lady that does bees in the group who's helping me actually, she's going to have stuff just for kids. So that's definitely kid friendly, family friendly. Honestly, it's kind of what it's all about. But I appreciate the person asking. But we have a full day of presenters. Just to give an idea, we have introduction to beekeeping, mealworm farming, selling plant starts. We have a rabbit person that's going to be there. We have Luke Gross from Gross Family Farms will be speaking. And I actually met him through, I went into our local butcher shop where we buy our meat because we don't buy it at the grocery store. And I told the guy there, I'm like, hey, this is where I'm moving. He goes, there's a farmer that brings his, stuff here from that area. I looked him up and he's like 14 minutes from my farm. So first thing I did is contact him to learn about all the locals, all the places to go, so he'll be speaking and he kind of what I wanted him to, a lot of homesteaders want to build an income producing farm. Like a lot of people want to eventually have that contribute. So what Luke's done is he's a first generation farmer that's went from having no animals and no farming background to being a full-time farmer selling through farmers markets and a meat CSA where they actually deliver meat to the customers. And I think just the marketing side of what he's done, marketing himself, and I just thought it's a great thing to learn as a homesteader who's a lot of us want to build businesses. So he's kind of not really concentrate on raising a chicken or raising a pig. A lot of us know how to do that. He's going to kind of go into the marketing of your farm and just teaching you about that. So he'll be speaking. There's going to be a chicken processing demo. Right now, there might be a rabbit processing demo. So, it's going to be a really good day of, family friendly, fun events. And this all started off chasing dreams. Basically, I bought hatching eggs. Like, I just randomly bought hatching eggs from this guy on Facebook Marketplace. COVID started. My son was not going to be going to school. I'm like, I want him to learn about something. I bought two incubators and I got on Facebook and I was actually coming back from Kentucky. I picked up a chicken processing, basically a setup, a Featherman setup that I went down there and bought off somebody. And I'm like picking up these hatching eggs and I'm like, I'm assuming if you sell hatching eggs, you do this. And, we had never met. We met in a parking lot because, it's Facebook Marketplace. I could be a murderer. He could be one.
Right.
And I'm like, so we just get to talking. I'm like, well, you got to check this out. I just got this deal. And I know you're an auction guy and like to find deals.
Oh, yeah.
I was just so happy to have somebody to show this off to because there's literally nobody else I really knew that would care or even know that this was like the bargain of the century. And so we just hit it off after that. And I wasn't even I had only been on Facebook to buy a tractor. So I signed up for an account, but I didn't know there were groups on Facebook. I'm not saying that's the best place in the world, but a lot of people are there, and it has been amazing. Once you get out, I think by nature, maybe, at least I was, I didn't go around talking about homesteading or prepping or any of that stuff with really anybody.
Right.
And you kind of think you're the only person. And then after you get out a little bit and you meet these people, it really turns in, I mean, they're like family.
Yeah.
Um, it's just been a great experience. And there's actually an event, not only the one that I'm helping with, but we also have an event. Amber, who is part of, I met her through Chase's group. She actually has an event in Tipton, and I posted it on Freesteading.
Okay.
And it's the 28th of this month, so just 10 days away, I think.
Yeah.
So, and it's in Tipton, kind of in central Indiana. And I know a couple people from Freesteading might be able to make it, so I'm looking forward, to meeting some of them in person. But again, she's just a person I met through the first meetup that Chase had. And I mean, I'm not the type of person that goes into a group of strangers and just starts talking. And honestly, me and my wife, it was freezing cold out. And me and my wife were there just a little bit. And I'm like, okay, let's leave. And we're like trying to kind of sneak away, hadn't really talked to anybody. And we were just able, like, we were literally trying to get out without being noticed, and ran into this group of people, and we stood there and talked for a long time. And then, that was before I was really new Chase, or, was friends with him like we are now. But I think once we got out, for me, once I got out of that comfort zone,
Mm.
Reaching out to these people, there's a lot more like-minded people out there than I think, we think there is. It's just a matter of, getting in front of them and, feeling that out and getting that awkward stage out of the way. And, but it should be a really great event. I mean, I hope, people can attend. As far as if you want more information, I post on Freesteading in the Indiana section, and I'm on there, Dog Creek, or I have the YouTube channel, Dog Creek Farm. I mean, feel free to reach out to me. Chase has a Chase and Dreams Homestead group on Facebook. I mean, it's a great group of people. I know those groups can be really weird. I mean, as far as, good and bad, but it's really a good group of people. So
Yeah. So if they want to find you guys can go to Freesteading, right? Dog Creek Farms is on there. Get in the Indiana group. There'll be details there. The YouTube channel, Dog Creek Farms. Is your email available on your YouTube channel?
I'll make sure it is.
Okay. Make sure it is so they can contact you. Guys, at the end of the day, getting together as a community, there's not a single more important thing we need to be doing right now. And this is because the only way we take our economy back, and the only way we do that, is we have to network all of this stuff together, and it's going to take all of us. I can't do it alone. And Jake, you can't do it alone, which what makes us a good pair, because we're both fighting the same fight, So I applaud that. So I would encourage everybody, first of all, to go to out to Dog Creek Farms on YouTube, like, subscribe, get involved, reach out to Jake. And if you can attend this event, I would really encourage you guys to do it. And, we'll talk more about it as, we go on here today, but then also at future times, Freesteading and all of those, we'll continue to promote and continue to try to get people there and, go meet somebody, go yoke up, right? Yoke up, right?
Yeah, I've actually been, I didn't know they had a family in Indiana too. So, I forget her name, but I talked to her after I met him through, your lives on Friday night.
Are you talking about Indiana Mike?
No, who's the couple? I thought it was the Yoke Up couple.
Okay, so the Yoke Up couple, this comes from American Roots Farm out of Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, and they just sold their place and they're looking for land.
Yep.
Yeah, they have family in Indiana. So
oh, I didn't know that.
I talked to her, just messaged her, of course, but it was pretty interesting because I was telling her, we actually, honestly, if I would have known what I know now, it would be probably totally different. But we spent 4 years almost looking for our farm. We actually spent a week in Missouri 2 different times and a week in Kentucky 2 different times. And I think like now, like knowing about your group and different things, honestly, I probably would have went someplace where somebody had already started this.
Yeah,
but I talked to her and it's like,
yeah, here's the good news though, bud. Is
she mentioned like, well, why don't you recommend Southern Indiana? I said, well, no, I love Southern Indiana. And then she mentioned she had family in Indiana. So
yeah. What the good news is, bud, we need these little nodes, people like you and me in every state. And,
Right.
I can only make a limited impact on this, nationwide on just one group here. We need 100 of them that we can all network together and starve the beast in our own efforts, and so I applaud what you're doing out there. Um, so away from the event, let's just talk. I want to talk about you a little bit because I think your story really will resonate with a lot of people. And when you and I were talking before today, and then what I already knew about you, and then some of the stuff we've gone through emails and stuff, I've learned a few things. And I was telling you this before that we started this tonight. I get a lot of people tell me, "Man, Tag, it must be nice. How lucky are you that you can go and build your own home and buy a piece of land and go buy solar panels and get off grid. I really wish that I had the resources to do that, and not everybody can do that, but the fact of the matter is that's simply just not true. What they don't know is that I starved for 10 years, saved every penny that I had, didn't go on vacation, didn't go to Starbucks, because I was so committed to this process and the way that I wanted to live that I got there. But you got there a different way, and you've seen both sides. And so if you don't mind us talking about that, I think it will really help some people and empower some people, to take the next step. So before we get into what you're doing today, tell me about the background, about the history. 7 years ago, 10 years ago, when you were at your worst, or when you were struggling in life, what was life like then?
Oh, it was brutal. I mean, I went through a divorce. I got married young, went through a divorce. And I mean, when I say I had nothing, I mean, I was literally bankrupt. I mean, I flipped my first house. People are like, wow, that was really, you kind of got in on that on the front end. No, I flipped my first house because it was literally, I had like $17,000 left to my name, and I put it all in this house and I fixed it up myself. Everything that happened in that house, I did. And now I will say part of this might have been a little luck, but when I sold that one, I took all that and invested it, and I bought three more houses. And it was in '08 and '09 when the market was horrible. And we're still living in one of the last houses that, me and my wife bought. And I mean, this farmhouse we're in now, people are like, well, how'd you end up in Petersburg? We're outside of Waynestown, Indiana. I'm like, well, how'd you end up there? Because there was a sheriff's sale with a house with 2 acres, and it had a big garage, and it was $16,000. So that's how we ended up here. I mean, there's no romantic story like this farmhouse. No, it was a cheap house, about 2 acres, and you know, now obviously we put a lot of money into it, but it's been a long road. And I mean, to say the struggle is real, like, I mean, my wife, I mean, I couldn't do this without her now. I mean, she's the greatest thing ever, but I mean, she's lived without kitchens. I mean, not having a kitchen sounds kind of neat. Like, oh, I'll go out to eat, I'll
No.
do this. No, I mean, we sold one of our houses when the market was still a little soft, thinking it would take a while to sell, and sold it for full price the first weekend. I didn't even have drywall up in the house we were going to move into. So we didn't have a kitchen for months. I mean, I finished a bedroom and a bathroom so we could move into this place. So yeah, it's not romantic when you're going through that part. Now, on the other side, of course it is. I mean, being able to buy the farm. I mean, I actually talked to you. I mean, we just went back in debt recently, and we even talked about it. I mean, it's still just was agonizing in ways,
Mhm.
because once you break free from the system, I mean, it's just, it's empowering. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. I know it's hard, but I mean, I wasn't only doing that. I was doing my day job. I've always had side hustle, everything you can do. So I've always wanted to live off my side hustle and basically save everything I made in my day job. I mean, that's always, and then my thought is, once we move to the farm, which we're getting really close, once we made that move, if I didn't want to have a day job, then I had that option, because my side hustle was basically paying for our way of life. Um,
Yeah,
and that's
I think it's fascinating. I think what people should take from this is that you went from a place where you went through a divorce, didn't have any money, put everything, the last pennies you had, put all your chips in, right? And said,
yeah,
I'm going all in on my pair of deuces, whatever it was, right? I'm going all in right here. And through those side hustles have managed to flip some homes, managed to do things in order to get you free.
Yeah. I mean, we owned our 100-acre farm and our house we live in.
Yep.
And the first loan we've had in probably probably paid that off 4 or 5 years ago is this new land purchase.
Yeah,
And
well, and I don't think that one really counts so much. And I've told a lot of people on my channel that the only thing I would probably go back in debt for was land. Like,
yeah,
I would not borrow for anything else. But if the 80 next to me came up, I would do everything I could swing. If I couldn't pay for it, I would find a way because you're not going to get another opportunity to do that. Um, so how long did it take you from being bankrupt to living free?
probably almost 13 years.
Okay. So and when you were back when you were bankrupt, how much debt did you have at that point?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. It was so, I mean, just ridiculous amounts of debt.
Okay. So you
And I
went
really
from,
didn't have anything. That was like I had this debt, but I didn't have anything. I
yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it
But I think
and
that's what's magical, man. Seriously, that's what I'm so proud of you for, is that right there. You went from being bankrupt with a ton of debt with nothing to show for it to saying no more. I'm done.
yeah,
I'm freaking done with this. I'm not playing this game anymore and I'm going to go live free.
yeah. It's I mean, I know it's and I know like when people see you, they probably think, well, like you said earlier, well, it'd be nice if I had that. I think what people, I mean, I started off, I'm in the electrical business. I mean, I started off as a delivery guy,
Mhm.
and then I worked a counter, and then I worked inside sales, and then I mean, I've done every job. So, I mean, you just have to keep working. And honestly, just working one job probably isn't going to do it. I mean, that's the system isn't set up for you to work one job and, really get out. You have to have a side hustle and you have to put that time in and know it's going to pay off. And you just have to live smarter. I mean, we people spend money on just dumb stuff. I mean, I've done it. I know they do.
But
Um, and I think it's hard to break that cycle. But I think you even talked about kind of generational wealth on one of the
mhm.
videos, Starving the Beast videos. And I don't know why I mean, that should really like sink in. Like, I mean, honestly, and I even told you like that video series, I mean, I don't know how it doesn't get a million views. I mean, it is really good. I mean, it's really thought out information. I mean, it's I don't share many videos. I'm not that good on social media, but the first video I shared was actually the one from it was the one that made me contact you. It was from Self-Reliance,
Mhm.
where you talked, and right when the first time I've heard that, it was right when I was kind of going through a lot of stuff as far as deciding to go back in debt and just a lot of different things. And I mean, I know, everybody has their opinions, but I mean, that was like literally like you were talking to me, in
Yeah,
that
well,
time period, what I was going through.
but I hope that was really my mission to the whole Starve the Beast thing, is to, if I can just do my part in getting people to open their eyeballs and to understand how the game's played, I think we can make a real dent. And I tell people this all the time. I don't like where my country is, but I love my country.
Yeah.
I just
There's no
do.
place else I want to go. I
No,
mean,
but I can't tell you how proud I am of the strides that you've made. And I think if of those of you guys who are out here listening today, I want you to really think about this. This guy went from bankrupt with a ton of debt and nothing to show for it. Okay, his own words, to living free in 13 years. How many of you will take that deal? Because I can tell you 13 years ago, I would have taken that deal. And I wasn't bankrupt and I didn't have a lot of debt. And if you'd have told me 13 years later I could have pulled it off, I'd have taken the deal. And you overcome so much more than that. I mean, I hope what people see is, but if you can do it, they can do it. If I can do it,
yeah, I
we
mean,
didn't,
there's
we didn't do
nothing
anything
special.
special.
Mm-mm.
you know?
I mean, I don't have any fancy degrees. I mean, street smarts and a high school diploma is all I got. I
That's
mean,
right.
you just have to work for it. I mean,
Yeah, I think, it's so interesting. I think that, and I don't know if you recognize this or not, but I think what happens is, and it happened to me, and I've thought about this a lot, but over the years, and it consumes me a lot to this day, is that at some point you got to take responsibility for what happens to you. You got to take responsibility for your beliefs, and then you have to put action to it. You have to be more committed to your dream than you are to Starbucks. You got to be more
Right.
committed to your dream than you are to the brand new TV or whatever it is. And was there ever a time for you where you just said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm done."
Yeah, and I mean, I had lapses too, though. I
Of
mean,
course.
you do that, and then you see like, somebody pull up in their new car.
Yeah.
It's not like I need a new car. I mean, my wife has a new car right now, but honestly, because I work in sales, we have to have a car that's within so many years old. So, that's why we have it. But I mean, I'll have those, and then I literally kick myself because it's just, and in a week you're going to be thinking, why did I do that?
Yeah.
But I've always tried to do that like in a way that if I buy something dumb, I usually plan on, like, I already have an exit plan. Like, I like to deal. So like I kind of like I might do something and my wife will be like, why did you buy that? You buy this? And like I grew up, my uncle did taxidermy. Well, there was a taxidermist in Ohio. It's like, I want to sell everything I own. I'm like, I'm your guy. I went and bought it. My wife's like, are you losing your mind? I'm like, I'm gonna keep this, I'm gonna keep this. And I sold, I made double my money just selling the stuff I didn't want. And then I'm like, you're right, I don't need this. So then I sold all the rest.
Yeah.
But I like to wheel and deal. So usually when I do something like that, I kind of have a plan,
Well, I
that
think
goes
that's
with that.
actually an important note and that everyone hears this, that none of us are perfect, that we all falter. We're all flawed, right? 100% of us. I'm the same way.
Definitely.
It is not unlike me to walk into a Home Depot and Milwaukee's released this new tool that I just am sure will make my life easier, right? So, I mean,
Oh yeah.
I go through it too, but I think staying conscious of your dream and your goals and what you're trying to get to and understand, be patient. It does, 13 years for you, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
it took us 9 years to buy our land, and then I've been here 4 years. I'm at 13 years too, right now at this point.
That's
From
about,
yes, when we
so we
started.
were about the same time. I mean, we
Yeah.
looked, and when people are looking for land, I always tell, like, I know like they get tired, like you don't want to hear the story when you're the one looking, but I mean, we looked for 4 years. We looked for 4 years in 3 different states. We spent every spring and fall break in a different state. I would try to find an amusement park or something that we could do as a family while we were there to look at property.
Yep.
And we actually ended up buying a place in Indiana, 3 hours from where we live, that
Yep.
I had saved on my favorites. I had it saved on my favorites on my laptop for a full year.
Yeah.
And we were going to make an offer out of state. And I told my wife, man, I've had this saved for a year. I'm going to call them and see if they really want to sell or if they just have it listed. Well, they lowered the price the day I called them.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's crazy, but it will work out. I
Yeah.
mean, and I know like these last few years have really, changed the markets and everything else, but people will find what they're looking for. And honestly, the people in the city, like it just blows my mind sometimes. Like I think about what they pay for stuff, and I'm like, you could actually go in the country and
Yeah.
buy something nicer and have land, and you could try to grow your own food, or But I know it's just a mindset, and everybody doesn't have it. But um, I do see it definitely catching on more and more. I mean,
Yeah.
as far as just people getting out.
Yeah, but you wouldn't believe the emails. I'm gonna turn my light on here real quick because it looks like it's getting dark here on me. There we go. It's getting dark where I'm at, so it looks like it's already dark where you're at. But uh,
Yeah.
I get a lot of emails from people asking, how do you buy land? How do you go about doing it? What was your process like?
I mean, I just literally got on Zillow, and I really love Missouri, actually. There was a few YouTube people in Missouri. I reached out to them. None of them responded to me. They weren't big channels, but they're probably like, here's this random crazy person that, wants to talk to me about how I found my land. And because I even told them, I'm like, hey, I'm kind of like, I'm going to be there. Would you be willing to talk to me, tell me anything? And
Yeah,
I mean, I get it,
yeah,
crazy people are everywhere.
yeah,
But I mean, if I would have met people or knew, I probably would have ended up there. I mean, there's just a ton of water and a ton of land. I like both,
yeah.
but there's not a ton of jobs. So
Right.
where we were looking.
Yeah. Well, I think
And then,
I went through this big scientific process to find my land, and I'm always interested in what what drove you to a particular piece? You mentioned water, right? So obviously that was a
Yeah.
big driver for you. Were there any other big drivers?
I knew I wanted some woods and I knew I wanted some tillable and I wanted something that I wouldn't have to borrow much money for.
Yeah.
And honestly, Indiana, we just didn't have a lot of large tracts of land. I mean, the 100-acre farm we bought, I mean, you just don't see those size farms come up for sale much.
Yeah.
And honestly, knowing what I know now, I mean, I wouldn't have been as worried about getting 100 acres. And our place was 96, and then we bought the one next door. But I mean, when I was looking, like, I was like, oh, I got to have this. Honestly, I mean, if you're in the right setting, I mean, you could do a lot on a lot less than that.
Oh yeah.
Um, I like the idea of being sustainable eventually. Um, I think that's a lot of people's goal. But I kind of got my water in line this year. I got my spring developed. It's gravity fed. It feeds into an 1,800-gallon concrete cistern that then feeds down to our cabin about another 100 feet. So even with gravity, I can have water. Um, I got a lot of fence to put in. We've talked about fence, but I have a
Yep.
lot of that to do. I think this year, so we rent our tillable grounds out to just a conventional farmer. He's who farmed it when we got there. This will hopefully be the last year I rent the ground, and I'm going to go ahead and get the pasture put in. So then when we move, everything, pasture will already be developing. And now I've met enough people down there that honestly, if I get fence up, a low maintenance animal like starting a few cows down there, I think now I know enough people that I'm not real scared to do that.
Yeah.
And honestly, we got good internet down there now, which has been a game changer because I mean, I've never had any theft problems, but when your property's 3 hours away and
Mm.
like we can only see a neighbor this time of year when there's no leaves. Like if there's leaves on the tree, I can't even see a light and
Right.
we love it.
Right.
But um, that's, honestly, my wife was from India originally, and when she moved to where we live now, she thought it was the country.
Yeah.
And the first night she spent down there, like our doors are solid glass and the screen door is just a glass, and she was just laying there looking out, and she's like, "What is that?" And like she had never been someplace so dark that the stars are so bright. Like
Yeah.
that's real. Like people who have never been to the country don't know that, but when people talk about that, that's real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think that's just a beautiful. I love your guys' story. Now you went and bought this land. Why? Why'd you buy more land?
the best part is my wife never even saw it. My wife was so tired of looking at property that this was the closest property we ever looked at,
Hmm?
and she said, "Go look at it. You know what I like." And we just we want the opportunity to grow our own food.
Hmm?
To honestly, if my son who's 16, if he wants to get involved, I mean, he's going to probably go to college somewhere and do this. But I mean, I wanted him to always have a place. I wanted, family to be able to come if they want to. I wanted a place that was ours. I mean, it's the bottom. I know everybody says, well, you're gonna pay taxes your whole life. Doesn't, okay, well, I am, but it's still ours. I mean, I don't
So
consider
when you decided to take the loan out and buy the additional piece of land, why did you do that?
the only buildings on this 50 acres were 20 feet from our property line. And
Okay.
I was scared to death. It had what we're turning into a tiny house. It was basically a hunting shack that they framed in. It's actually it's a nice little building, but they framed it in and just never finished it. And it had a 30 by 60 pole building with a concrete floor. And I just thought, I mean, common sense, those are the only two buildings, even though there's 50 acres and we have 100.
Yep.
Our cabin and that place we can see it. And I was like, honestly, I made him an offer. We were there the day they listed it. So it was over our fall break. So we were down there, and I made him an offer the first day.
Hmm?
It wasn't a great offer, but it's what it was worth, 3 years ago, which I know is not reality anymore.
Right.
But, they came right back and they're like, no, and gave us a counter that was basically the same as list price. And I was honestly ready to walk away just because of the debt thing. And my wife actually, she's like, well, if somebody else buys that, we're never going to get a chance to buy it again in our life, probably.
Mhm.
And if somebody buys it, we're going to have somebody right next to us,
Mhm.
you know. And so, yeah, she's really, I mean, if she wouldn't have told me, I mean, now I'm not going to act like it was hard to twist my arm after she told me, because, you know, I think I had an offer in 40 minutes, but it, it we bought it. And the other thing we bought it for, and you're even the first one, my wife mentioned it, and you were even like, well, what if you buy it? And if you don't want it all, then, you can decide who buys it.
Right.
And honestly, yeah, I mean, we've already talked to a couple people. Like, if we do want to sell it, we're not gonna put it on the market. We're gonna pick who our neighbor is.
Right.
And honestly, there's 5 acres left that we won't own, that there's a little tiny cutout in the front of one of our fields that somebody owns. And I mean, if that ever comes up, then I'm gonna try to buy it, but I know we're never gonna have to, buy property again, whatever we want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's amazing that you have the opportunity to impact community like that, because, you're getting older, I'm getting older, right? To be able to bring in, whether it's your son or, bring in other community and work together for this common good is an amazing thing. We've been fortunate here where I live. I'm surrounded by homesteaders. I mean, every direction you look, there's another homesteader around me but we have consciously done this.
Yeah, I know multiple people have relocated
Yes.
to where you guys
Yeah.
are. Yeah,
Yeah. We actually picked up 5 families last year.
that's
It's awesome.
well, and I know Grumpy Acres told me that the Indiana Mike guy from that I see in your chat has actually got a farm there or getting close.
No, they've closed. It's done.
Okay, I knew he mentioned it. So
Yeah. It's interesting. I think what's so powerful about this is not 5 people who moved to a city and rented a house. These are 5 people who bought homesteads.
yeah,
That own 30 or 40 acres or 50 acres or whatever it is. And collectively, I was doing the math this morning. I think collectively we're 952 acres right now.
wow, that's awesome.
Which is pretty cool, right? And
Yeah.
I'm hoping to add to that this year. Add another 5 families or something like that, and get that up to 1,100 acres or 1,200 acres. I think that would just be a a remarkable thing. So do you have plans? That's how you'd like that? If it turned out any way you wanted it to turn out, other than everything's peaceful, I retire wealthy, and I mean, with the exception of the cotton candy and rainbow answers, is that how you'd like it to turn out?
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
I mean, I will say though, our road down there, it's everybody I've met, are really great people. And I think once we're there all the time, I think maybe I think it was you guys had a dinner and you're like, there was even more people there we didn't know, but they're all, people that are the same. I think that's like when I first was down there, a guy stopped in, he's like, hey, this is where I live. If you ever need anything, you stop and ask me.
Yeah.
And I had a pet spitting blow up on a, might have been Saturday night or Sunday, but closest store is Louisville that would actually be open because all the mom and pops are closed. I drove down to the guy's house on my side by side. I'm like, hey, Kelly, I just said, hey, Kelly, I didn't tell him who I was. So he's like, I think I have that. He digs through his garage for 15 minutes, hands me a part, and then says, have we met? So he didn't remember who I was. He was giving me a part that I just randomly pulled up to his garage and asked him for. And then he asked who I was. And I was like, that's the kind of people I want to be around. Then I was like, hey, I live at the cabin right now. And he's like, oh, you got a new truck? I go, yeah, I did. Not new, but new to me.
Yeah.
But and that just kind of, I don't know, it just said a lot for kind of the neighbors we have down there. And that really stuck with me because every place we've lived, I would honestly have never asked any neighbor anywhere that's been our actual residence. I would have never asked any of them.
Yeah.
But they also wouldn't have stopped when I was there working and said, hey, do you need help?
But tell us, give us these people some advice. People who want to go live free, who have debt, who, are in that spot and feel like it's unreachable. What do you say to them?
I think the only thing you do is just work and get out of debt. There's nothing anybody can really say. It's just, you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stop going to Starbucks. And I know you're like $5, and I don't go to Starbucks. It's probably more than $5 now.
Right. Probably.
But it's, I mean, you just have to change everything. I mean, and we had this conversation last night, and you talk about it a lot. I mean, vote with your dollars. So
Yep.
quit spending on stuff you don't need, and then invest what you do have to spend with like-minded people that are local if you can. I know that's hard, but I mean, honestly, there's no secret, and I'm sure you know. I mean,
Mhm.
if you've been through it, you know there's no secret to get out of debt. You start making more money than you spend, and you
Mhm.
stop spending money on stuff you don't need.
Yep.
And the cycle that we're taught to live in, I mean, teaches you the total opposite. I mean, everything you learn is about how to get in debt and how to manage your finances once you're in debt. Nothing's about, I mean, I can even remember when I was growing up telling my grandpa, like, I'm gonna buy a farm someday. And he's like, yeah, you're probably not, you know. And it wasn't, I mean, I don't think he meant it, like he didn't mean it in a mean way,
Yeah.
but I mean, he's literally just like, probably not. I mean, you know, and he was a logger. He was a hardworking
Yeah.
person, and I mean, he loved me. Like I have no doubts about it. I mean, he literally just yeah, probably yeah, you know. And I think that's the same thing we look at farming now. Like I'm really interested in farming. I on a small scale. Basically, I want to feed my family before I really worry about feeding anybody else. To be honest,
Smart.
but I think I'm always looking at a side hustle, and if you can raise a couple extra, whether it's pigs, cows, whatever you're raising, and offset some of your costs, I mean, why not? But I mean, my goal has always been and will be to just be in control of my food supply. I mean, I hunt, I do other stuff, but I mean, I just want to have the livestock. I mean, honestly, this is the first time in a long time we have 2 chickens. That's all we have
Mhm.
because we've sold at our farm we live at now because we're spending time on the new farm and going back and forth. That I mean, I had about 30 meat rabbits. I mean, this year I processed meat. I grew up showing some livestock, but I had never raised anything for meat.
Mhm.
So, I raised meat rabbits the last few years, processed meat rabbits this year. Um, I actually just went down to Jason, Kentucky Sustainable Living 2 weeks ago and butchered a pig with them. I think I don't know that I'll do that every time I need it, but when you have the ability to do that, it's just like being out of debt. It's empowering.
Oh,
Everything you
yes.
do is just I honestly had to ask my wife. We butchered. We didn't raise the pigs, but a good friend of mine raised the pigs, and we butchered 4 pigs this year. It was the first time. The only person that had any experience didn't show up. So we literally watched YouTube videos and read a book. Now we had a deer cooler because he deer hunts a lot, so we had the advantage of having a walk-in. So we, you know, dispatched and cleaned them all one day, and then came back the next day and did the cuts. But I had to ask my wife. I'm like, is this pork really that good, or is it literally mentally like I think it's better because I did it? And
Yeah.
she's like, no, it really is better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's so empowering. I look at that and being out of debt, like you have so much control. Like it's empowering, I guess is the best way I can put it. And yeah, getting out of debt's not fun, but once you're out of debt, it's amazing how far your money goes.
Yeah,
Like
I
you
think a
don't
lot of it though
know.
isn't a lot of it attitude though too. I mean, just like when you're talking about getting out of debt's hard. Well, it's hard, but when you figure out to put the shovel down, you've dug this big hole, just put the shovel down. And then
Yeah,
once you've put the shovel down, that by itself is empowering. You're still not out of debt, but I think each one of those steps in the right mind frame allows you to helps empower you to continue on that journey.
yeah. And I don't know why. To me, it ties together. I guess you could live in the city and be out of debt, but just because that's my lifestyle, it all tied together. And first you get out of debt, and then you get the farm, and then you're able to raise your own food. I mean, after the last, I don't talk about anything property in our homesteading related much at work. I mean, I'm a sales guy. I travel around, but I'm putting a new service in our pole barn, and you can't buy meter bases right now. 408 meter bases, 54 weeks, and
Ugh.
luckily a customer of mine had one and gave it to me, so we're going to be able to keep moving. But I'm asking some guy for him, and he's like, "Well, what are you trying to do? Build a compound or something?" I'm like, yeah, I am. Like, I want to build a place. And he's just staring at me with the blankest stare. And I look, I'm like, well, I don't know. What do you think that, after the last few years, do you think like, I don't know, they could make us all stay home and put a mask on? I mean,
Yeah,
nothing like that could ever happen.
right.
I mean, no matter what you believe, if the last few years hasn't taught you, you need to be more independent. I just don't know what you could be looking at.
Yeah, I think I could not agree more. Anybody who that looks at it and says everything's fine is lost, just lost. I pray for them for sure, but so what's the next step on your guys' homestead? I know you guys are getting ready to move, or so you talked about being food independent. Do you want to be water independent and power, energy independent? And are you going down all those
Yeah,
roads?
we got this. I've looked into solar, so actually my company is a Indiana-based electrical company, but we just got into the solar business.
Oh,
So
good.
I'm actually waiting to see what we get in,
Mhm.
and it'll be real interesting. The company we're dealing with, it's funny. The guy's probably 55, and he's like, I grew up in an off-grid house, and I literally after the meeting, like I asked more questions than anybody, and everybody's like staring at me like, would you shut up? And after the meeting, I'm just being honest. I'm All this is stuff I wanted to know selfishly. Like, I hope to sell your stuff, but like, I'm so interested in this.
Yeah,
And I'm like, so basically, I said, so your dad was like off grid before it was cool then? He's like, oh, yeah, he was off grid before it was a thing to be off grid.
yeah.
And so I'm definitely going to, I'm learning about it right now. So with the water, we have the spring, and I'm going to put in rain catchment on our pole barn, basically because it's far enough away. Then I can also use that for livestock. I want to put in one more holding tank because 1,800 gallons is a lot of water, but you bring on livestock and plants, and I mean, I want to be able to probably double that. But like everything else, storage tanks for water right now are through the roof.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure when I'm going to do it. I might do some other projects first, and then I want to put some solar on the barn. I won't have solar like you by any means, but I want to at least have a small system that
Mhm.
I can charge phones and batteries. And
Mhm.
if we lose power, like, the other thing is our power is dirt cheap. I've never seen cheaper power than where we're at. I was shocked. But if we lose power due to a storm, I mean, there's 3 or 4 farms on our road. I mean, nobody's coming
Mhm.
to turn our power back on in an
Right,
hour.
right.
So my solar thinking is just as a backup, like
Yeah, well,
but
Jake, I'll warn you though, bud. When you take your toes and you dip it into solar, it's super addictive. Just wait, because I started small. I had one 3,000 and one 6,000 watt inverter, a few solar panels. That's what I built this whole place with, and my system just mysteriously continues to grow. So I warn you, it's addictive.
well, when we move full time, I hope to build one more cabin,
Hmm.
and well, maybe 2 more. I'm looking at building another one with my son.
Hmm.
Even if I mean, you can't say it anymore, but I don't care if he goes to college and gets an office job. I still want him to know how to do manly things. And
Yeah,
I know you can't say that, but I do.
yeah.
And
Say it
so
anyway.
one of the things I want to do is build a tiny house close to the cabin with him that can be his, and he can stay there during college or whatever he does. But then I want to build one more that will be our last home on the top. We have a huge hill,
Mhm.
and when they were doing our septic, I got a price, and I texted my wife and I said, "This view's not priceless. It's around 20 grand." But I've thought about, like, if we do that, solar would obviously be, because it's the highest point anywhere around,
Yep,
and it's an open field. And I thought if there was ever a place, and power will be outrageous to get up there, I
yep,
thought to do this, it only makes sense to have the plan be
yeah,
solar.
yeah. Well,
But
but it's super addictive. I warn you. I'm in my we call it the Freedom Electrical Co-op, but I'm in it all the time because it's just to me it's just amazing. I think I'm
it's
addicted.
just like, yeah, well, you're literally taking your power back. I mean,
I am.
so yeah, I'm interested to see, kind of, I know just enough to be dangerous. So this company that we're working with is actually they're, because a lot of the solar people aren't necessarily off grid people. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So a lot of the solar people you talk to really don't understand the off grid. They just understand a grid tied solar system that a lot of people think, I mean, they'll put in solar not even knowing that if you don't have batteries in your grid tied, you're just using that, but then you're putting it back to the grid.
Mhm.
But if the power goes out, you aren't going to have anything. I mean,
Yeah, not only that, but if the power company ever decides that your social credit score is too low, they have the ability to come on your property anytime they want to. Try telling them no,
yes.
see what happens. They'll show up with the sheriff and make you. No thanks.
So so that's been it. Like, I never really understood that. I always probably think of it as the opposite. I always thought of solar as off grid,
Mhm. Yeah.
but
No, most people who have solar are not off grid.
yeah, it was kind of interesting because yeah, I've dug into it enough. I know a little. I knew it was funny because the guy's like, kind of looking at me funny when I'm asking questions, and he knew that I obviously had done a little research, but I. And obviously you deal with it. I'm assuming like the more batteries technology comes, the more economical those will be to
Yeah, but
put
when
in.
just in the last 4 years, my $25,000 battery bank. So I got 25 grand in batteries. My $25,000 battery bank today would cost me 12.
Wow, I mean, and so you can run your mini splits because I know you did mini splits for zoning, and you can run those with your current
Yeah,
system you
but
have in
I
everything.
have no other way to run anything. I mean, I'm off grid, so we actually have 3 base units and 9 head units, and I run them all.
And that's impressive. Because honestly, when I started asking some of those questions in this class, the guy teaching it was like, "You can't do that." And I'm like, I was actually thinking, I know you can do it because I saw Tag do it on.
But
But
I had a lot of people tell me you will not run air conditioning off grid. I'm like, bet.
and it's due to the mini split technology, right? I mean,
Right.
that's what I honestly mentioned that in the thing.
Yeah,
And
so
that's
my AC, when it's all on, takes about 1,700 watts.
because I won't lie. I mean, I'm rough and tough, but when it comes to AC, I do enjoy it.
Yeah, me too. Well, we
And
were
I
getting,
know my wife does.
yeah, yeah. There's, it's funny. People who talk to me about you live off grid think for some reason I live in like a little cabin in the woods. They just don't understand. I live a normal life like any other person, in a normal house with everything that a normal house has. I just don't pay an electric bill, and I'm not a slave to the system. Other than that, it's the same.
Yeah. No, I've watched some of your videos, and then I just saw you when you installed the mini splits and stuff. So I assumed I didn't know if you could run them all, but
I
yeah,
can run them all. But I weld when it's funny they talk about how many watts a system is or whatever. But I have a 300 amp. I have 300 amp service in optimal conditions. Right. I'm talking about when the sun is perfect and the angle's perfect and everything's perfect. Um, but I weld. I use my 220 welder, Miller welder, welding stuff all the time with it. No problem.
honestly, I would have just assumed that I knew you because I've seen different things. I would have just guessed you would use in the generator when you did that. I
Yeah,
didn't realize you could.
I can. Now I use a generator a lot to weld, like if I'm welding on fence or it's just an easy little quick weld or something. But if I've got to really weld something and I need the big power, I use my big solar system,
Wow.
which is cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. All right, bud. We've been at it over an hour. So before we go, though, I think real quick, let's mention your event one more time in case some people missed it along the way.
Yeah, April 29th, Henryville, Indiana. Working with Chase from Chase and Dreams Homestead. And honestly, without him, I would have never started. So, I mean, I would have still been doing everything I do, but I sure wouldn't have been talking about it
Yeah.
on YouTube. So I can't thank him enough. And honestly, thank Tag because I've talked to you, I mean, more than I've probably talked to anybody about just random stuff. And I mean, it's so weird. Like through your lives, you really do feel like you're become friends. And I mean, I thank you. I mean, I met Jason because Kentucky Sustainable Living because he was on with you. Um, Jason was like, "How'd you find me?" When I messaged him, I'm like, "You were on with Tag," and I just, because you have to answer like, "Are you from Kentucky?" I said, "Well, I didn't want to lie." I said, "So I just reached out to you because I'm not from Kentucky." But he's been a big help.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned through like talking to him, there's actually quite a few groups in Indiana. They're all kind of independent.
Yeah.
And because I cross over into a little bit of the prepper world. Like I'm into some stuff like that. And those guys have little groups, the homesteading have little groups everywhere. And honestly, I did Indiana Sustainable Living on Facebook, so I did start a group for that. But honestly, I didn't want to name it Dog Creek or Indiana Sustain, or I wanted it to be something where everybody can be their own brand in there and
Yeah.
don't have to worry about, because I know that's big as you try to develop. I mean, I'm not great at YouTube. I can barely edit. I can't do a thumbnail. I put it on there though because you got to meet people like you. I got to meet Jason. I mean, Shelly, we were just talking about, I mean, just the few people I've met have made it more than worth it for
Yeah.
getting out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. So speaking of that, you
So,
going back to the Self-Reliance Festival in April?
yeah, but I knew I saw you're on this list of speakers now, so I'm
I
hoping to
am.
make. So I knew you said you thought you were, but you weren't sure. And actually, I was talking to Jason about it, and Shelly's like, "I'm on the website right now. He's going to be there."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to talk about off-grid living and about what's really involved in, because it's very different than living in, a lot of people don't
yeah,
understand the number of people behind the light switch that ensure your power comes on. You don't have any of those. You are those.
well, and I think I'm in that business. I mean, I'm not the line side, but I do major construction projects. And I mean, every time I hear about electric cars or this or that, honestly, that's been one of the things that's pushed me to be sustainable because if you only knew how fragile the system
Oh,
was,
yeah.
I mean, if you weren't scared, you should be. I
Yeah.
mean, it is, but yeah, I actually hope to make it. My son won't miss school for anything, so I'm trying to talk him into missing school to go. But yeah, I just talked to Jason Saturday when I was down there. And I'm like, "Are you going to go?" He said, "I think so." I go, "Well, let's both go then." So,
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. Well, but I have to tell you that first of all, I'm proud of you.
oh,
And
thank you.
it's very easy to say woe is me. And it's very easy to just take what the world gives us and not take a stand and fight back. But you bucked the system and you said you did enough's enough, and you are the exact people this country needs to build around. And I'm proud of you, and I'm super thankful that you'd spend time with me today.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, I appreciate you. I mean, from the minute I reached out to you, you've talked about our event like 7 months before it was even happening. I
Yeah,
mean,
yes.
I honestly, I've been shocked at how many truly good people I've met just through I've found you first, and then
Yeah.
kind of off I've seen who's in the chat, and then I kind of check them out. I mean, it's really been, I mean, everybody I've talked to, it's like I said, it's just honestly amazing, really. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, but I think together we can do this. I think together we can take some of this control back and take responsibility for our own lives. And you're doing it, dude. You're doing it. I mean, you're just doing it. There's a lot of talkers out there, but you, my friend, are a doer, and I salute you for that.
I appreciate it. And thanks for your time, Tag. I truly appreciate it.
Yep. All right, guys. So, hey, listen, in closing, I think if you took anything from all of this, which is what you should take out of this, is that, what Jake did is took accountability for his actions and accountability for where he was, and he owned where he was, and he put action behind it, and he made it happen. And over the course of 13 years, went from being in debt and bankrupt to being free. Gave me goosebumps. Like, that's badass, you know? And so, guys, I challenge you, go live free today than you did yesterday. Hold the line. I promise you, Jake and I are going to hold the line, and we are not going to give an inch. We'll see everybody later.